Hey everybody, welcome back. Today's video is going to walk you through the installation process of a BAK Revolver X4 tonneau cover on a 2019 Chevy Silverado. If you've already watched videos covering this topic already, I encourage you to stick around because I do deviate from the manufacturer's generic instructions a few times and walk you through the troubleshooting of alignment issues. Everything always seems to go perfect the first time in the other videos, but that was not the case for me. If you find this video useful, please like and subscribe. I post how-to videos for any mods or service work I do to my truck, so please join the community and let me know what you think about my truck or the plans you have for yours. Let's get started. The first step is to decide on an X2 or an X4 BAK tonneau cover. My dad bought an X2 a few years ago, and its finish looks like a smooth, glossy leather you would see on most low-end bed covers. This X4 has a more rough matte finish, which I think better matches the plastic along the bedsides and tailgate. It does cost around $50 more though. I also recommend shopping around for who you purchase your bed cover from. I managed to get an X4 for just under $900 US before tax at a local aftermarket truck parts store. Every other place I called wanted over $1,000 and required me to pay them to install it. The only tools you will need are a 1/2-inch socket or wrench and a 9/16 socket or wrench, a scissors for cutting the seal strip, and some rubbing alcohol and a rag to prep the sticking surface is a good idea as well. Step 1 is to attach the adhesive seal to the front of the truck bed known as the bulkhead. There are two different thicknesses of seals included in the box. You should always use the thicker seal unless you have a drop-in bed liner. You will want to make sure you put the seal on the flat of the bulkhead, but you will also want it as close to your bed as possible. You will see in the end of the video how far back the bed cover sits, so you do not want the seal too far forward on the vehicle. Once the seal is stuck in place, you can move on to step 2, which is to mount the side rails. They need to be snugged up tight against the front of the truck bed as well as along the sides of the bed. They are labeled right and left to help make sure you don't get mixed up. I wanted to point out the side profile of these rails to show you the small seal along the outer edge. You'll want to make sure this seal is tight against the truck bed and not curled under the rail during the next step. We are now actually on to step 4, and this is where I take my first major deviation from the generic instructions. You will need to secure your rails with the included clamps, but I chose to spread mine out more than they suggest in the instructions. As you can see under the side rails of the new Silverado, they have 4 of these clamp locations along each side of the truck bed. The instructions suggest that you only use 3 on each side and then use the 4th clamp with the strap mounted to it to be secured right next to the forwardmost clamp, but I feel you will get a better hold on the rails and a tighter seal if you don't leave a large air gap between your clamps. It's not a big deal if you want to follow the instructions, it's just my recommendation. Believe it or not, we're now on to step 8 in the instructions. You will now carefully set your bed cover in place starting from the back of the truck. Roll the bed cover to the front of the truck bed. Make sure you get those plastic tabs to run down the flat trays on the rails. Step 9 is to slide the bolts into the aluminum channels. They will go into the slotted holes on the rails. You will now have to crawl underneath the bed cover and finger tighten these nuts into place with the metal and rubber washer assembled in this order. This camera angle shows what things will look like inside the truck bed underneath the cover. Note how much wiggle room the bed cover still has. This is important for alignment in the next step, so don't snug these down right away. This is where things got really tricky for me. As you can see on the left-hand side, this alignment isn't looking too bad. The plastic tabs are laying nicely on the tray of the rail, and the latch looks like it'll fall into its correct place. I'll freeze frame it here to show you I don't have any room for adjustment if the other side is having an issue. If I could get a little bit of adjustment or movement from this side, I wouldn't want to because this side is exactly where it should be. So now, when we go over to the right side, you will see the problem, and it's a full 1/4 inch of a problem. I'll freeze the frame here to show you the exact part I'm looking at. With the plastic tabs not properly seated in the rail, the rolling latch that locks every tab into place is going to miss, and the white latch at the end of the cover is not going to properly engage. I also had an issue on a smaller scale on the front of the truck bed on both the left and the right side. To make this cover a perfect fit, I'll need to implement a fix to the front of the rails as well, but to a lesser degree. To fix this issue, you're going to need to shim the rails so they are closer to each other and further away from the sides of the truck bed. I bought two 2-foot lengths of 1/8 inch aluminum that was 1 1/4 inches wide, and two 2-foot lengths of 1/16 inch aluminum that was 1 1/4 inches wide. Plastic shims also work great if you can get some of the correct thickness and width, but I would not recommend wood as it will rot away eventually. This bed cover will last a long time, and you want to make sure this is a long-term fix. What worked best for my particular alignment issue was to use the 1/8 inch thick shims near the back of my bed, and then use the 1/16 inch shims near the front. You will have to loosen your clamps that attach to your rails and insert the shims between the plastic top covers of the truck bed sides and the bed cover rails. You will want 2 clamps to secure each shim in place, but try to slide the rear shims back near the end of the rail where the white latch will engage. If there is an air gap behind the rail where that white latch keeps slamming into place when you close your bed cover, it could eventually slightly bend the rail, and you want that point of contact to be as strong as possible. Once I had the shims in place, everything looked and functioned a lot better. As you can see, the plastic tabs lay right down in the middle of the tray on the rail, which means they will be locked and secured once the rear latch is engaged. Once you have the left versus right alignment in place, I recommend you have the cover pulled further back towards the tailgate. This will help better seal the tailgate and put some pressure on the tailgate so it'll actually drop down on its own when you press the button like it's supposed to. My tailgate sticks a little bit, but once this cover breaks in, it should go back to normal, especially if you're not parking downhill. Gravity seems to be a factor whether this tailgate actually drops down on its own or not. Once you have the forward and back alignment done, you're ready to secure the bolts to attach the bed cover to the rails. Remember that the bolts can still slide left and right in those aluminum channels of the bed cover, so make sure they are centered in that slot of the rail so you don't bend the washers. Give the cover a test and adjust if necessary. I'm not sure if my issues with alignment were just a fluke, either with my cover or with my truck bed, but hopefully your install goes as smoothly as the manufacturer suggests it will. Either way, I still recommend this cover and that you install it yourself. I could have paid the shop that sold me the cover to install it for me, but I now know that my alignment is perfect and the fix was done in a way that will last as long as the cover will. My bed cover was only installed for a day, and a huge thunderstorm gave it a solid rain test. The seals are supposed to be either hit with a hairdryer or left out in the sun for a few days. As you can see, it didn't do too bad of a job given that this wasn't a fair test. I plan to drive it around for a week and give you guys an ownership review in my next video. Maybe I'll give it the automatic car wash test. So hit that subscribe button and I'll see you guys in the next video.